Lone Star 187. Two sisters that love listening to true crime podcasts and decided to give this shit a try. Since we are Texas through and through, we will be researching murders across our Lone Star state. 187 is slang for the penal code for homicide. Since police codes are unique by city and county, we decided to simply use something that most people would get. We know this code isn't specific to Texas, but hey, we like it and it's our podcast, so we do what we want.
Shot fired, he's got a shotgun. Shot fired, he's got a shotgun.
Lone Star 187 is intended for a mature audience. Listener discretion is advised.
2 ambulances, 612, 613 to stage for shots fired. Leaves up in Washington, 724.
Okay, stage 1. 214, back up.
Case file 44, Juan, Guerrero, Chapa.
We're back. Another story for you guys. This one's a crazy, crazy ass story. I know we say that every time, but this is like next level crazy. Oh, wait. I'm Kerri.
I'm Britney.
And we're Lone Star 187. Coming at you live from the podcast room. Looking at the murder map. Okay, so.
Where are we going? Where are we at?
You know where we're at this time?
Are we hot? Or are
we have not done a story here. This is fairly close. We're in South Lake, Texas.
South Lake?
Yes. South Lake is...
bougie.
Definitely. It is 30 miles west of Plano. Okay. Around 30 miles. The population is about 31,000. And South Lake is ranked in the top 10 as one of the richest places in Texas. Just some examples of the subdivisions in this city are Coventry Manor, Monticello, and the Enclave.
Oh, Enclave.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Seeing famous athletes are a common sight. Like the PGA golfer Rory Sabatini lives there, as well as DeMarcus Ware. I don't know if he still does, but at the time of the story, he did.
Where?
I'm not going down that. I'm not doing it. DeMarcus Ware, are you?
Well, and that's like plastic surgery heaven.
Yes.
That's where like not all, but majority of like the famous plastic surgeons are.
I mean, they're smart. They're going to follow the money. So yeah. I'm sure there's a lot of silicone and a lot of lip injections and a lot of Botox and nobody frowns or smiles and
no expressions.
Yeah.
Are they having a good day? You don't know. Are
you don't
they
know.
alive? You don't know.
You don't know. They might just be like Weekend at Bernie's. They could just be like fake alive. The public schools are ranked amongst the best in the country. South Lake Carroll High School, and I know you're familiar with that name. They have one of the best football
programs.
Not a crow-pram.
Oh, not a crow-pram.
Here we go.
Shit's
falling apart.
Shit's Creek. Here we go.
They have one of the best football programs in the state. They've won 20 state titles since 1975, so they're good. And they also have titles in other sports in this school. Let's go down the list. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Get your popcorn.
Okay.
Wrestling, golf, cross country, swimming, baseball, soccer, basketball, diving. I'm not done. Track and field, hockey, marching band, and lacrosse. All of those sports have won titles. That's fucking ridiculous.
There's not a lot of schools that have hockey teams.
This one does. They have a really nice town square there, as most cities do, but this one is like bougie level.
So are we gonna go?
I've been there. I was there last Saturday having dinner, but yeah, it's really cool. We're gonna have to go. You know what? We can go there and go live. Okay. We can go to the spot where this situation happened. Yep.
The situation's gonna be there.
Sitch. Big Daddy Sitch.
BDS.
So the square isn't like the normal ones. It's like it's got really fancy architecture and old-fashioned street lamps. So it is really cool. The police department averages 1 or 2 arrests a day. Most of them are property theft, minor drug offenses, or occasional public intoxication or DUI.
Where's the beach? I gotta find the beach.
I still have the fucking COVID wheeze. So do you want to know the top 10 most richest cities? I have them listed.
Okay.
Okay, number 1 is Terrell Hills, which is in San Antonio. The median,
that's the most expensive one?
The first one.
Okay.
The median household income, which is average, $175,000. Bel Air, which is close to Houston, median household income there is $200,000. Number 3, Highland Park, household income $200,000. Number 4 is Melissa, which surprised me.
Really?
Yeah, it says the average income there is $113,000. West University Place at number 5, which is close to Houston, $250,000 for that median household. Number 6 is Trophy Club, which is close to South Lake, right? That household income is $142,000. Number 7 is Willow Park, DFW area. That's $120,000. And number 8 is South Lake. And it says the median household income is $230,000.
Oh my God.
Number 9 is Fair Oaks Ranch, which is in San Antonio. And number 10 is Coppell. So more than half of these.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know Coppell was that wealthy.
The median household income there is $123,000.
I mean, I say that. Like, I don't even live near that. I'm like, it's just pennies.
Take your petulance money and go.
Give me the $0.25, please.
Okay. It is May 22nd, 2013.
We are already done with summer. Like, we don't even, like, it's just now hitting us and we're done with summer.
We don't even want to be there.
We're not ready for August.
So there is a couple, a guy by the name of Juan and his wife, Julia.
Which one?
Oh my God. I don't want to tell you.
I'm just wondering.
I don't want you to know.
Wondering what you mean.
I don't want you to know.
Which one were you discussing?
Can you Juan? Focus, Jenkins. Shit. We are never going to get through this if we start like this. It is almost midnight. It's already 11:52. Juan and his wife, Julia, decide they're going to go to the town square around 6 p.m. on this Wednesday night in summer in Texas. Again.
Bad idea.
So they park across from a yogurt shop, which is Juan's favorite place to get yogurt. So they go in, they get their yogurt, they come back outside and they sit on a bench. And they're sitting on this bench and they're having their yogurt. They walk around a little bit when they're done. She wants to go into 9 West to buy some shoes. While they're inside the store, 2 men drive by in a rental car and park in a very specific spot where they can see, they have a very clear view of a Range Rover, which happens to belong to Juan. So the couple leaves 9 West and they go back to their Range Rover. And at this time, it's like 6:45. So it's still light outside. Mm-hmm. So Juan gets in the passenger seat and Julia goes around to the back side, goes to the driver's back seat to put the stuff in the car that she bought. About this time, a white Toyota Sequoia pulls up behind the Rover. A man gets out with a 9mm pistol. The guy was wearing a hoodie and a bandana covering his face.
What is it with these damn hoodies?
He walks up to the passenger side of the Range Rover, raises the pistol, and starts firing.
Just at Juan?
Yes. He walks up to the Range Rover, to the passenger side where Juan is, and just starts shooting. The first 2 shots come from behind. I'm going to start calling Guerrero because that's what I have in here, and it's. I don't want to have to go back and forth. So 2 shots come from behind him. One of them causing broken glass of the window of the Range Rover because it was rolled up. Mm-hmm. Glass splinters everywhere on the ground. As Guerrero turned, he tried to scramble into the back seat, so he's sitting in the passenger seat. So he tries to climb over the console to get into the back seat. Multiple shots enter his side and his back. Then the shooter returned to the Toyota Sequoia and the driver speeds off. So Guerrero is slumped over motionless between the front seats. Blood's dripping from his mouth onto the tan leather of the Range Rover, right? His wife, who wasn't hurt, goes over to her husband. She looks at him for a second and then she just starts screaming, both in English and in Spanish. Within seconds, there were sirens. A crowd gathered on the lawn in front of a nearby gazebo. Police officers pushed away bystanders as EMTs pulled him from the car and tried to resuscitate him on the sidewalk across from Banana Republic. He was immediately rushed to a hospital a few miles away, but he was dead at the scene. I think they knew, but they just were gonna hope. There were surveillance cameras around the town square, but none of them captured the murder or the face of the shooter. But there is video surveillance of the car, the Koya, up it's like a high camera looking down so you can see the car. They can see when it pulls up until it takes off. That entire time took less than 10 seconds.
From the time they pulled up, got out, shot him, got back in the car, and drove off, it's 10 seconds.
Less than 10 seconds.
Dang, they work fast. Hitman.
Okay, yeah.
Hitman.
So South Lake Police Chief Steve Milet told reporters, obviously this is a well-orchestrated and deliberate act involving a specific target. The crime appeared to be the work of an organization that is trained to do this kind of activity. I mean, they rolled it less than 10 seconds. That isn't something that you get lucky doing.
No, that's calculated.
And that means you've done that before. If you're able to like get that shit done and get out that quickly and just disappear, you know what the fuck you're doing, right? Mm-hmm. Of course, the brazenness of this crime shocked the residents of South Lake because there hadn't been a murder in that town in more than a decade. And nothing this dramatic happened since Bonnie and Clyde killed 2 state troopers nearby. So I don't know where that happened, but it must be close to South Lake. And that was in the 30s. Autopsy reports later revealed that he had been shot 10 times and had cocaine in his system.
And he was shot 10 times in less than, like, probably 7 seconds.
And
the time that it takes to get out of the car, shoot him, and come back.
I stole some of this from a Texas Monthly article, and everything else was from the newspapers.com. But to quote Texas Monthly, this is what they wrote. Seems like the Mexican drug cartel violence had arrived in South Lake. Be prepared.
Dang, cartel in our backyard? That's
yes,
scary.
Wait till you hear this. Okay, so Juan Jesus Guerrero Chapa and his wife, Julia, moved to South Lake in 2011. They lived in a $1 million mansion. They did not have many friends in the area, but they spend a lot of their evenings at the town square. I don't have any other information on their background except for the other stuff that I'm going to read. It turns out Guerrero is identified in a federal court document as the acting leader of a notorious Mexican cartel, which is rare because most of the time, these kinds of people, drug cartel people, seldom try to hide in the U.S. Usually, it's very unusual to find high-ranking leaders like him in Texas, especially in North Texas, because cartels use North Texas in this area for, they call it a jumping off point to spread their distribution network. Because the Dallas region, several freeways, small airports, allows for direct routes into the Midwest and beyond. Okay, so the men who shot him had been stalking him for months. Not for 4 months, but for a long time. As head of the Gulf Cartel, which is the cartel he was a part of, the Gulf Cartel, he ran a large criminal enterprise whose activities included murders, narcotics, trafficking, kidnapping, extortion, bribery, money laundering, and torture.
That's like the definition of cartel.
Absolutely. Court records said he had been living in fear because he'd been found by people who wanted to kill him. He represented members of a drug cartel whose leaders were recently sentenced to U.S. federal prison. So he was an attorney's office in McAllen, but he wasn't practicing at this time. He was in the cartel. So he basically had to be an attorney for these drug guys and had to try to get them off.
Okay.
So recently, the people that he was scared because the last members of the cartel that he represented were sentenced to federal prison. So it didn't work out the way they wanted. So I think that was part of why he was scared.
Okay,
it didn't,
that's fair.
I mean, if he can't make it happen, he can't make it happen. But that's
sure
a reason to be scared.
Well, and I'm sure they're paying him a pretty penny to keep
I'm
them out
sure.
of prison. And the fact that he can't control that decision.
It's pretty bad to take the money if you know you can't control it, right? Although they don't have hard evidence that he was the lawyer for some of the other people, it's kind of an assumption. Okay. A Mexico City-based news magazine, I think it's called Proceso, reported that he was a lawyer for drug dealers. And they believed he participated in the legal defense of all members of the Gulf Cartel, which is what I'm saying. He's saying he's not. There's no proof. But if that's your role in this cartel, you know you got to do it.
The shoe fits, dude.
Well, and if they tell you that's your job, that's your job.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You're going to do what they tell you to do.
Yeah.
It's also rumored that Guerrero was the personal attorney to the Gulf Cartel leader, Asiel Cardenas Goyen. This guy is already in prison, serving a 25-year sentence in the U.S. on drug trafficking and other charges. So he didn't really get off either. So it doesn't sound like this guy's a very good attorney.
He did not do very well in school, I feel.
Now, the cartel's selective, but if they want to kill somebody, they'll do it, as you can see, right?
Obviously, yeah.
Fred Burton, who works for Stratfor Global Intelligence, and his job, this company monitors the cartels. They monitor the areas that they influence, their drug routes, and there's a perception that these guys don't do that kind of stuff here, but clearly, as you can see, they do. And he said, if you live in a large city in America, in all likelihood, there is cartel presence there. No city is untouched anymore.
That's scary.
And here's another scary thing. 6 of the 8 major cartels operate in Texas.
I believe that because we're right next to Mexico.
Yeah. So do you want to know the name of the 6? Los Zetas, Gulf Cartel, La Familia Michoacana. These 3 overlap in their areas of operation, but they roughly have the eastern half of Texas. The Beltran Leyva organization, they're based along the Gulf Coast, which I don't know why theirs isn't called Gulf Cartel, but that's just me. There's the Juarez Cartel and the Sinaloa Cartel. Those 2 primarily operate in West Texas. So that's kind of scary. I mean, I know we have a giant state. It's massive.
I mean, I feel like anytime I hear these stories about the cartel, if you don't mess with them, they don't mess with you. For the most part. So, like, as just a civilian, like, just walking around, hearing there's a cartel in the area makes you nervous because if a gunfight goes out, you could be a victim. But I don't feel attacked.
I mean, you could be attacked in the trafficking way. I mean, that's the part that scares me because wherever they go, crime follows. Trafficking is the thing that I stick with the most because ironically, today when I was working from home, I was watching, it's one of those channels that we watch.
ID, Oxygen, HLN.
ID. And there was an episode of, I don't remember the name of it, but it was that story of that girl that, something Varto, the girl that lived in Denton that was trafficked and they found her. I don't remember. But anyway, it was ironic that I was working on this story or worked on it over the week. And here we are talking about a trafficking thing, like just in Denton.
Yeah.
It was crazy. Okay. So far, so good.
Yeah.
Okay. So Wes Ball and Warren St. John are the lawyers for the 2 who wrote in the document that Guerrero was the attorney for the head of this large drug cartel. Guerrero took over the operations when the Cardenas guy had to go to jail. So maybe they think he didn't do a good job trying to be his attorney because he knew he would take over if he went to jail. So maybe there's that too, right? But that guy, Cardenas, was forced to forfeit $50 million. That's how much money he had from his drug trafficking empire.
Well, I mean, have you seen Breaking Bad?
Yes. They also found thousands of kilograms of cocaine and marijuana. Also, Guerrero was reportedly a government informant, which is very dangerous.
Very dangerous.
He had been tracked for more than 2 years by the government. So he was being tracked by the government, so they knew where he was. And he was being tracked by the cartel because they were trying to kill him. What, isn't that crazy that this shit was going on like
down the street?
It's closer to you than mom. Okay, so the defense's allegation kind of explains how complex this whole thing is. So somebody probably thought he was cooperating with the U.S. government, and if he was a cartel leader, that's more reason to take him out. So the people that were trying to kill him, the people that killed him, that had been stalking him for a couple of months before, the links they went to try to, this is crazy. Early in their search to find him, they tried to get the U.S. deport Guerrero back to Mexico so they could do it there.
Yeah.
They even sent a drug dealer 4 times from November 2012 to January 2013 to pay somebody else a total of $38,000 to try to get him to come back, sell him drugs and try to coerce him to go back to Mexico. Didn't work. The plot to kill him formed as early as 2011. So there was a guy named Ledesma Cedepa, Cedepa.
Girl, I am not the one
Okay.
to ask.
This guy and his son rented an apartment in Grapevine. This happened in 2011. They set up a surveillance camera in Guerrero's neighborhood, placed a GPS monitor on his car. They traveled from Mexico to South Lake back and forth between March 2011 and until the day they killed him. They used email, photographs, and other surveillance tools. They bought and rented several vehicles so they could change cars frequently to avoid detection. They also placed tracking devices on their own cars, as well as multiple vehicles owned by Guerrero and his relatives. And of course,
so even like his relatives were stalked. And you would think like he would probably know that he's a target, right? Like especially like if
he even said he was scared.
Yeah,
like
he
said that earlier.
Know, like I not only I'm double dipping here, right? Like I'm working for the cartel, but I'm also a rat, and I'm telling the government too. So like the government knows what I've done. The cartel may know that I'm a rat. So either party could try and kill me. And I'm part of a cartel, so anybody could want me dead.
But I'm not trying to get out. Like I know.
I'm trying to make that cheddar.
Yeah, I know all these things are happening, but like I'm not doing anything to try to. And if he was working with the government, it's not obvious that he was working in a way to try to get out. It seems like he was trying to
do
play
both sides,
like you said. Yeah.
Then I'm sure the government pays him, right, to be an informant, and then he makes money naturally just being as part of the cartel.
At some point before this shooting, Guerrero received calls from others to warn him that he was in danger. So people were also, not only did he feel scared, people were telling him, dude.
Like, obviously something's wrong.
So as soon as he hangs up the phone, he tells his wife, I'm scared. He also told her he didn't want to go back to the house because the people that were looking for him knew where they lived. He told his wife to stop using their cell phones. And he was startled that he had been found. I mean, I guess he thought he really was safe here, but like clearly it didn't work out.
I would feel like if you're trying to run from the cartel, anywhere in Texas would not be good.
Well, anywhere in the U.S., that's what they were saying. It may be because it's rare, he thought he would get away with it. But if they're doing business here, it's just like a little side project to find you.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. And like I mentioned earlier, even though he was scared, he still continued with his association with all the criminal use and kept using cocaine. So fast forward to September of 2014. So it's been over a year since this happened, right? Because it happened in May of 2013. Okay. So 3 men are finally arrested in the connection of the shooting of Guerrero. The men's name are Jesus Gerardo Ledesma Cepeda.
Is that one person?
That's one person. Was indicted by a federal grand jury on a charge of interstate stalking. He also identified a guy, Jose Luis Cepeda Cortez. Those two were arrested, and they arrested another person, but he was booked into jail as John Doe. Both of the men that were arrested waived their rights to a preliminary hearing and were transported from McAllen, where they were found, to North Texas for court proceedings. It's interesting that they were in McAllen, right?
Because isn't that where he was before?
That's where Guerrero practiced law.
Yeah.
Okay.
I smell fish.
Yeah. Okay. In 2016, so this whole time they were in jail, they're still trying to figure out they've got so many people on this case. Can you imagine how quickly the FBI and all that set up? So they find out, the cops and everybody puts together that these guys that had been arrested for stalking, now at this point, 2 years later, because they were arrested in 2014, have been linked to 9 other people who were killed or went missing over the years. 2 of the people that were arrested were father and son. So the son, I think, is the one that they booked as John Doe, and the other guy, so a guy and his son, and then the guy's cousin. So they were all related. Okay. One of the 3 was fired from his job at Southwestern Bell after tapping the phones of his ex-wife and her boyfriend and threatening to kill them. So these aren't good people here.
I mean, they're definitely not the boy next door.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Okay, so Jesus Gerardo and his son...
John Doe.
We'll call him John Doe. The father, son, and then the other guy is the Jose who...
Why do you keep calling him a hoe?
Hose up, Lewis. We're going to call him Lewis. Jesus Gerardo Ledesma Cepeda is the dad.
That's a whole
Jesus Gerardo Ledesma Campano is the son. So it looks like the last name is what identifies them, the last. Because like the middle part.
The middle last name or the last
So there's
name?
there's like a name, a middle, and a last. And the last and the first are what make them unique, and the middle is the same. Does that make sense?
No,
Anyway.
but okay.
So they're all accused of orchestrating the killing of Guerrero, and they all admitted that they stalked him, but they didn't actually do the shooting. Okay. At this point, they don't know who shot him and who. There were 4 people involved. 1, 2, 3, 4. There were 5 people involved. 2 people no accounted for. No,
John Doe.
We call him John Doe. Okay, so John Doe testifies that he, his father, and his father's cousin tracked the man on the orders of one of the other cartels, the Beltrain. And the member that called this hit is Rodolfo Villarreal Hernandez, aka El Gato. And have you heard of El Gato
I've
before?
heard of El Gato.
He's the one that called this hit.
Damn.
That's why they did it.
Well,
he's bad. And he's on the top 10 most wanted now. There's actually a video. If you Google South Lake press conference, there's a press conference that they held at the site of the shooting where they announced this guy's name, this El Gato guy, and they say he's on the 10. They added him to the 10 most wanted list.
I just know if he says it, it's going to happen.
You got to do what you got to do or you're going to die. So they allowed John Doe to plead guilty to interstate stalking, resulting in death of exchange for testifying against his father and his father's cousin. So he testified against them in order to have less
some life.
He said he was involved in the crime. He said he and his father became involved in a group called Grupo Rudo, which was associated with the Beltrain cartel, and his father asked him to help with the technical aspects of the surveillance. And he agreed to do it, but I think at the time he agreed, I think he didn't have any idea what he was getting into.
No, because we're boomers, right? And so we're asking these younger kids to help us with technology.
Right.
As they do with...
They're not going to tell you exactly what's going on. They're going to give you the bare minimum information because they don't want you to know.
Right. And he probably growing up in that kind of atmosphere, because I'm sure it's not like it was something new to their lifestyle.
No.
He probably knew, like, if they ask you to do something, you do it. You don't ask questions.
Right. The less you know, the better.
Yeah, it's for your safety.
Mm-hmm. He said his father was hired by El Gato to find Chapa. An earlier witness said that El Gato wanted to kill Chapa because he thought he was responsible for the death of his father.
Damn.
So I think it was more about that and not
more
about
of a personal hit.
The other thing about not being able to get the guys that he was attorney for. Ended up. I think it was more of a
personal matter.
Yeah, I mean, it says right here, because if El Gato thinks you killed his dad, you gone, clearly.
I keep on thinking you're going to start singing Mr. Roboto every time you start saying it.
I was really worried that I was going to butcher these names, and I might be, but I feel like I'm doing okay.
You're doing better than I think I would do.
He said El Gato spent $1 million on the operation and then rewarded him with a BMW and a hunting trip, and the killing was celebrated with a big party. So that was in April. So in May of 2016, jurors deliberated about 6.5 hours over 2 days. Imagine what kind of shit they had to watch. Like there was a lot more stuff in here about what these guys had done, but we know how cartels are, and I didn't want to go, like there was like beheadings and stuff.
Oh, of course, yeah.
I was like, we already know they're bad. I put enough in there to kind of paint a picture, but I'm not gonna.
Right.
But if you go into the newspapers, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, it's crazy. So they convicted the dad and the cousin for interstate stalking, conspiracy to murder for hire. And so that's in May. And now in December, they're getting the sentencing, right? So the dad and the cousin got 2 life sentences plus 20 years to be served concurrently. The kid only got 20 years. So he didn't get the life sentences like the older men did, but he got 20 years in federal prison and a $250,000 fine.
So he'll at least have some kind of life.
Yes.
Not that so nobody admitted to being the actual shooter?
No.
Of course not.
The shooter and the driver got away. I'm pretty sure they were El Gato's men.
Directly El Gato's men, right?
I mean, I shouldn't say that. Like, I don't know what kind of backlash we're going to have. We've never covered a cartel story. This we may get us.
We were totally just kidding. Like, this isn't even like.
We don't know what the fuck we're talking about.
We just
So
made all
we're
this
just
up.
a couple of Texas girls
I just
reading
drank
shit.
way too many margs.
And we're reading shit from the, well, I mean, actually, this is not from the internet. This is from the newspaper, but it's still from the newspaper.
Yeah.
I mean, at least back in 2013, back in that day, people did their own research and did their story and then just like copy it from the internet. Anyway, so what they ended up doing is when they got there, when they parked, they made the cousin and the son get out and go get coffee. So the son and the cousin were not at the scene when it happened, but they came back, like they walked away and heard something and came back, and the dad was like, they shot him, get in. So they got in and left. So they weren't there like in the car when it happened. They were like away. So it's almost as if they didn't want those two to be as involved, so they gave them an opportunity to not be there, but they called them and said, hey, we got it. Okay. But still 10 seconds. It's freaking amazing.
Yeah.
That
calculated to so precise.
So I feel bad for his wife.
Of course.
But at the same time, if you live that lifestyle,
there's a reason why you can live in $1 million.
I'm not saying she doesn't have every right to be upset, because that's got to be very traumatic what she went through. I mean, so anyway, they're all three in federal prison. I tried to find out what prison, but I couldn't. It didn't say.
Probably for their safety. Oh my gosh.
So what do you think?
I like it. I never even knew this happened.
Me either.
I never knew until you brought it up.
A friend of mine was like, hey, we're close to where this happened. I was like, wait, what? And I got my phone. I was like, note to self. And so that was Saturday. And then I thought about it on Sunday. And so Monday after work, I was like, I'm going to start this story. And then I started it. And then when I went to bed that night, I had dreams about it. I was like, oh my God, I dreamt that, like, it was crazy.
We were in a family Mexican cartel.
I was like, oh my God. I kept putting in my dream, like thinking through it and all that. And then there is a show. There's a movie that it's called South Lake. I saw it on IMDb, but I couldn't find it on Amazon, Netflix, or Hulu. So I don't know how to watch it.
Okay.
People out there, if you know how to watch it, I don't know.
Okay.
So there is a movie about it. I mean, it's movie worthy. It's like Goodfellas shit.
South Lake? And you couldn't figure out how to watch it?
Yep. All right. That's my story.
It's a good one. I've never heard one.
Thank you so much.
Heard one like that before.
All right. Rest in peace, Chapa.
All right.
That's a wrap. That's a wrap.
All right. Bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.